I'm going to start our committee hearing with testimony from individuals who did not have an opportunity at our last hearing to share their stories. And we have with us, I know at least one lady that would like to share her story of sexual harassment, Miss Gloria. If she would please come to the table. We're going to ask her for her testimony. And if there's anyone else in the audience that would like to share their story, we are asking you to come forward now, or to make sure that you fill out one of the white cards and submit it so we can have you come up after Miss Gloria. Welcome, Miss Gloria. Thank you so much for being here today. Will you pull that mic down? Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right.
Introduce yourself for the record.
My name is Gloria Scott, and I am 74 years old, and I was harassed at the age of 70 on my job. I worked for the Superdome, which at the time was SMG, but it's now ASI, and I'd worked security there. And in December of 2017, I was at my post, and about 4 young men came walking up to me. And one of them I knew was Darius Guys because I know him from on TV, and when LSU had to play in New Orleans with the BYU game, and the area that they would let us stay an hour after the game with their parents, that's the area that I worked. So Darius walks up to me. First of all, I don't know how my story got out, but it got out 2 weeks ago without my name. I don't know who put it out. But it was my granddaughter happened to saw it on Instagram, and USA Today put it out. I don't know where they got it from. But anyhow, I'm sitting in a chair near the elevator 8. These young men walk up to me, and Darius walks up in front of them. He stands in front of me, and he said, "Oh, I like them like that, like you." I said, "What?" He said, "Yes." He said, "I like having sex with older women like you." And I said, "Young man, don't disrespect me like that." I said, "I know you have a mother, you may have a grandmother, and I have grandsons." You know, he said, "Oh, no, I want your body. I want you to F me." I'm not going to use the word. And I was so hurt, and I was so nervous and upset. In all my life, I've never had a man or child ever talk to me so disrespectful like he did. And I said, "Look, I have grandsons. If my grandsons knew you were talking to me like that," I said, "it would probably be a problem, you know." And he said, "Oh, they don't have to know I'm taking you to the hotel to F you." And I'm like, "Please stop talking to me like that." And the guys that was with him, they were just laughing, and they thought it was so funny. So he takes and he said, "I know you want this body." He takes his hand and he do all of this and go all down, you know, to his private area. And I asked him to please remove himself from me, and he wouldn't. And they had it on camera, but you couldn't hear what he was saying to me. So then when the elevator came, they go to the elevator, him and the guys, and he's still walking backwards in the elevator, and he's, you know, still caressing at his body. I have never felt so embarrassed that he and his friends thought that was so funny what he was saying to me and what these things that he said. And I still, after all this time, it bothers me. It upsets me every time I talk about it. So in the meantime, before I was called to Human Resource, I called LSU myself. First person I talked to was Sharon Lewis. And I told Sharon Lewis everything that happened. And she told me she was going to go talk to the coach and tell the coach about it. So the coach called me on the phone, and he says, "I have Darius here, and Miss Scott, please forgive him because he's a troubled child." I said, "Well, what's about me? I'm troubled right now. I'm scarred for life because a young man the age of my grandson sexually harassed me, embarrassed me, and hurt my feelings. So they had him in the office. They let him apologize. I said, "No, he can't fix this." I was crying. I was upset then. And he and Sharon both was trying to get me to talk to him. I didn't want to They said, well, he was just playing. He said, but you know, you don't play with nobody like that. No one. I said, the way he came up to me and he did it so easily, I said, I'm probably not the first person he has harassed like that and talked filthy to like that. So he said, well, what you want us to do? I said, I'm not trying to hurt him or take his career. All I ask that you all don't let him play in the Citrus Bowl was coming up. So he said, well, I'll get back with you. I'll let you know. So he never did. So I wind up, I talked to Marion Sigurd. I talked to Virgil Huber. I talked to both of them about the whole situation. And I told him the same thing. I didn't want him to play in that Citrus Bowl. I figured that would be the punishment that he needed. And they both told me that would never happen. They would never do that at all. And I said, well, why not? They said, well, we just don't do things like that. I said, so in other words, when somebody being harassed by your student, it's okay. You don't have a problem with that. So he get a slap on the hand because he has a troubled life. You know, that's no excuse for that. So I just didn't know which way to turn, because once you say LSU, there is guys, the doors were shut, nobody. I went to the NOPD to file a charge on it. When I walk in there and I said, LSU, there is guys, the office at the desk said, oh, I don't think we could give you no charges for that. I said, why not? He said, well, let me go talking it back to my supervisor. He stayed back there at least 10 minutes before he came back. He said, my supervisor said, at this moment, we can't do anything because you were on your job, but he didn't work in the facility where you worked at. So we're going to give you, they gave me a little piece of paper with his name, and they tell me, okay, if this happened again, you have this paper to show he did this before. So I went to internal affair on him. And they called me, and I gave them all the information about what happened. And about a month later, a lady from the internal affair called me and asked me, did I want to go further with the charges against the policeman? But like I said, I have to live in the city, and I got my family, and I don't want nobody, me or my family, to get hurt, you know, because I wouldn't trust doing that, going against the policeman. So I told her, no, I didn't want to, don't worry about it. You know, I wasn't going to do it. And I couldn't get no attorney, I couldn't get nobody to represent me at all. Nobody. I even asked Human Resource at the Dome, would they give me a copy of the video? They said no, the only way I could get that if an attorney was to ask for it. So I just been dealing with this. And I don't, like I said, I don't know who put the story out, but they put the story out. And it's horrible. And I told one of my friends and my family, I said, you see that young man, what he did to me, he's not gonna go nowhere in life. And look what he did. Look what he did to his girlfriend. Beating his girlfriend up, choking his girlfriend till she passed out, raping other young ladies. And I said, I called it. I said, that little boy is doing some terrible things. Because when LSU played BUI and it was time to go on the bus, and the coach told him, come on, let's go. The mama said, oh, he's with his family. He told the coach, F you. I'm not going nowhere till I feel like going. You know, so I right there picked up on it. You know, and I'm here not only for myself. I have 3 granddaughters and I have 5 great-granddaughters, but I'm also here for other young ladies and women my age that may be harassed. It's so pitiful. You messing with a woman that's a grandmother and a great-grandmother. Just horrible, you know, and I just can't. I think about it all the time. I can still see him standing in front of me and saying these horrible things to me.
Oh, God.
And I just, like I said, I'm not just here for myself. And I just had to come here today and let you all know that LSU hides a lot of things, a whole lot of things that's going on that's on that campus. This didn't happen on the campus, but still in all, he scarred me. He scarred me.
Ms. Scott, I want to thank you so much, first of all, for your courage to come and to share your story. I want to thank you for shining a light on this matter. And we pray to God that this never happens to anyone else. But I want to say how sorry I am. My heart is broken because all I can think about is my own mom.
Exactly.
I am so very sorry. I'm so very sorry that you had to endure that.
And my family is very, very upset about it.
I can imagine. I can imagine. I can imagine. We appreciate you. We appreciate you, and we thank you so much.
Okay.
Can you tell me what year this happened?
December of 2017.
Okay. And to this date, there was really no action taken.
None whatsoever. And then, like I said, I don't know how they got the story. Only thing, they had some things, the story is a little off from what happened, some things a little incorrect, because they mentioned that a supervisor from the Dawn went and talked to the people at the school. No, they didn't. I did. Matter of fact, the next time they had 2 football games, they moved me from the regular spot I work in. I asked them why. And they said, well, if they find out you putting a charge on Darius, the football players might have a reaction towards me. I said, what do you all mean, a reaction towards me? I'm the victim. He's not the victim. I'm the victim. And they moved me off my post because of that. Because where I work at is where the football players and their wives and children come through the door. But that's what I was told. That I was moved for that. Mm-hmm. That's all.
I am really trying to keep myself composed here, because I am outraged. I am outraged. I am just outraged. Senator Jackson.
Of course, I want to express my sincere apology, and that I know that doesn't help. That we're sitting in the committee some 4 years later, and you're finally telling your story to someone that's listening. What that denotes to me is that there's a culture of this, and I'm going to ask you some questions because I want to do, and I know this committee wants to follow up on it, and I don't want you to have to relive it, but there's some things I wrote down that are concerning to me, because as I look at, we're here for LSU, you also talked about some entities that you reported this to, that we fund, that didn't seem to give you any relief or recourse in this. And so I'm going to ask you some questions because I'm going to want to follow up, and I'm sure all the women of the committee are going to want to follow up on this, you know.
One more thing, I think it's called a disciplinary department of students. I even spoke to somebody there, and they said they didn't even have a clue of anything that happened because nobody reported it to them.
So, okay, that's what I want to ask about. The disciplinary committee. And I want to ask about everything because I'm trying to see, you reported this to some entities. You were working at the Superdome at the time.
Right.
Are you still working there?
Yes.
Okay. And so I know the Superdome won't take any action today from you telling your story. Because that would be a violation of Title IX. When you first reported it to the Superdome, do you remember who you reported it to?
Yes. To my manager that's over the security department. Her name is Lisa Walton.
Walton?
Yeah, WHARTON.
And when you is she still working there?
She still works there, but she doesn't work in that have that same position anymore.
Okay. And when you reported it to Miss Lisa, what instructions did she give you?
She had me to write a report for her to give to Human Resources. And Human Resources called me in about a week after it happened. And I know the Human Resource Director first name is Celeste. I don't know her last name.
Celeste is her first name?
Yeah. I work there part-time, so I don't get to really know everybody that's there, you know.
Okay, what happened when they called you into Human Resources?
She called me and asked me could I come in. She called me at home and asked me could I come in, and she asked me what happened. And I explained to her everything that would happen, and she's the one that I asked could I get a copy of the video. She told me she couldn't give me that unless I had an attorney. An attorney would have to get it. And that was it. I just told everything that happened, and the next thing they moved me from what position I was working.
Okay, so who made the decision, if you know, who informed you that you were being moved from your position that you were working in because it would upset the football
Lisa.
players? That's the shock. That's probably the biggest shock. Let's be real.
Lisa Walton did. She told me it came from Celeste from Human Resources.
Okay. And so basically, you're still working there, but they removed you from the post where you came in contact with football players.
Right, they did, but then they put me there. Now I'm back in that position.
And now back in that position.
Yeah.
How long did they remove you from that position?
I said maybe about 3 or 4 football games. It was near the end of the season, maybe 3 at the most.
So when you went back to that position, did LSU ever play in the Superdome again?
No,
They never played again. So basically, it seems that they removed you until the end of the LSU season. Did LSU play?
no they didn't play back in the dome anymore.
They didn't play. So,
Oh no, yes they did. I'm sorry. They played for the championship. I forgot they played in the championship game.
that same year?
No,
Okay. Okay, so that was the recourse at the Dome, which really wasn't recourse. They just moved you. Mm-hmm. And they told you it was because the football players would be uncomfortable.
Right.
All right. And then let's talk about the LSU. I think it was Coach Les Miles then. Okay, who was the coach then?
Coach O.
Coach O.
Yeah.
Okay. So how did you reach out to Coach O? How did you get in touch with him? Did someone connect you to him?
I got a
Because I'm sure it's going to be said you didn't call, and I want it on the record.
Oh, I got the phone number from a friend of my niece's, and he knows Sharon, and he gave me Sharon's number, and that's how I got in touch with Sharon Lewis and spoke to her and told her about everything that happened. And she said that she was going to get the message to the coach, and they would be calling me back, and they did. The coach called me back himself.
Okay.
And he told me that they had Darius in the office, he and Sharon, and that's when he was talking to me on the phone, and he wanted me to let Darius apologize to me, and I told him no, he couldn't apologize to me. He can't
Okay,
fix
so
that.
let me make sure, I'm sorry to interrupt you because that's what they're asking. The coach that called you back was Coach O.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and so you asked him for Mr. Geis to be removed from the upcoming game,
Right, and they played a bowl game, the Citrus Bowl.
Citrus Bowl.
Uh-huh.
And what was that conversation like? Tell me what happened.
Well, first of all, he just kept asking me to let Darius get on the phone and talk with me. He's so sorry, got his head hanging down, and he has had a troubled life, and he was just playing with me. He didn't mean those things. What he was saying, he was just kidding. I told no such thing, no such thing. There's no kidding in that. You don't kid like that. You don't play like that with nobody. I don't care how old they are. You don't do that. You just don't do that. So when he seen he couldn't convince me to let him apologize, so that's when he asked me, well, what would you want us to do for punishment for him? And that's when I told him what I wanted. And I said, I'm not trying to hurt him or take his career from him, but I figured that would hurt him more than anything not to be able to take part in that bowl game.
So,
And he played in it.
and I think this is where I'm having a lot of trouble. You were hurt. You had been wrong. Still took in consideration someone's career.
Yeah.
And even with you doing that, they still didn't offer you any relief.
No. He told me he'll get back with me and never did call back.
So that's the first and last conversation you had with any coach at LSU about this incident.
Right.
And when you talked to Coach O, did he acknowledge that it had happened, that he was aware?
No,
Like-
he didn't actually acknowledge it, but he must have knew something, because
Right.
why did they go get him to apologize to me And then,
Right. That's what I mean. He
oh, yeah.
basically said he's here to
Right.
apologize to you, and he
Apologize,
gave you
right.
an excuse for why it happened. Okay. Yeah, you're acknowledging it.
Right. And then, when I, s- when it was, I'm trying to think.
You had just hung up with Coach O and you never received a phone call.
No. I mean, I hadn't received any more calls from him at all.
And then,
Oh, when I talked to Mary and Sue, she tells me that the young man that was with him said that none of that happened. I said, well, why did the coach go get him off the practice field and brought him in the office and wanted him to apologize to him if it didn't happen?
and you said when you talked to who?
Marion Seagill, the assistant athletic director, I might be pronouncing her
Okay.
last name wrong, incorrectly.
And so she told you that basically,
Yeah, they spoke to the young man that was with him, and they said that it didn't happen. And I said, well, why did Coach O bring him in his office and wanted me to accept an apology for him if it didn't happen? That made no sense to me.
okay. And then after that conversation, who did you speak to?
After that, I spoke to the athletic director, I might be saying his name, Hubert, Virgil, something like that. I had his name in here. His last name is Hubberry, and the first name Verge.
Burge Alsbury?
Uh-huh.
Okay. And what did he tell you?
Well, I spoke to him about the situation and how I felt and how hurt I was about it. And all he said, well, I'm sorry it happened. I said, well, I'm just asking you all that you all don't let him play in the Citrus Bowl. I'm not trying to hurt him or hurt his career, but I feel like something needs to be done to him for his actions that he did towards me. What about me? You know, having a bad life where you got people around you, we're trying to help him and all this, these people going reaching out all kind of ways to help him to have a better life, but look like what y'all were doing, it wasn't helping because it's just in him. You know, some people you just can't help change no matter what you do for them. And don't look like it's in him to change.
Right. Did you speak with anyone else at LSU after speaking with,
I spoke to someone, like I said, in the I think it's called disciplinary department or something to that effect, but I don't have their name. I don't know their name.
Jonathan? No, I think
I
Jonathan.
had recorded my conversations with all of them, and I was cooking some red beans and talking to my niece, and I dropped it in the pot of red beans.
I understand.
But I had recorded all the conversations I had.
Oh, man, I understand. I've tried to cook red beans twice. It hasn't gone well for me. I understand. I'm still trying to learn. So,
Yeah,
but you did speak to LSU disciplinary.
yeah,
It's-
I did, and told me they had no knowledge of the situation at all. No one had told them.
And they
anything.
never called you back after you spoke to
They
them.
told me they was going to look into it and never got a call back, never.
Okay. And then you talked about a police or something that you talked to?
Yeah, I went to the 3rd district where I live at in New Orleans. I went to the district there, and when I was trying to tell the police some of the stuff that was going on, it was like he was nonchalant, like so what, whatever, you know. And I said, well, you're telling me nothing could be done, you know, I just been violated, nothing could be done about it. Well, let me go talk to my supervisor. He stayed back there for about 10 minutes or so, and he came back and said, well, my supervisor said nothing could be done about it because y'all didn't work together. He was a patron at the football game. It was a high school championship game when this happened to me. And so I was very displeased about it, so that's when I went to the internal affair. And
You went to internal affairs at the Dome?
no, it's not in the Dome. It's that is
Police department.
Yeah, of the
Okay.
police department. Yeah.
Did anyone from the police department give you a report at any time or anything in writing?
Nothing but a little piece of paper with saying if this was to ever happen again with Darius, you can show him this paper, which I'm still looking for everything. I don't know of what I filed this somewhere. I don't know.
No
But
problem.
I had it. but I know internal affair got a copy
Okay.
of everything.
And so after going to the police, there was no one else to complain to at that point. You going to LSU, you're going to your supervisors at the Dome, and you're going to the police.
Yeah, an internal affair. Well, I told them everything that happened, and that's when they weren't going. What they were doing was asking if I wanted to pursue with the charges against the policemen,
Right.
you know, for the way they handled my case. And like I told them, you know, I got to live there and my family. I don't want to jeopardize my family and myself, you know.
Right, I understand that. I understand you've been to 3 different entities at that point, and no one had done nothing, and so filing a report against someone else could cause some issues.
And we called, excuse me a second, my daughter, my oldest daughter, she called Channel 4 and talked to a reporter and gave her some of the stuff and information. And she kept saying, oh, I got to talk to my manager about it. And then she told my daughter, oh, I talked to somebody at LSU that said your mama trying to get money. And she said, no, my mama's not. My mama just asked for him not to play in that game.
Right. And and of course, I'll get that information from you off the record on your older daughter, because I want to talk to her as well. I think the chairman will too, in these instances. So that's Channel 4 is
WWL, 2 W's.
WWLTV.
Yeah.
Okay.
I even called an advocate. They never called back. I tried calling Time Picayune to get my story. Nobody. When they said leave a message concerning your situation, I did. Nobody called back. I tried to reach out to a few attorneys. Same thing.
Who?
But I don't remember the names. I was just
Right.
searching, you know.
I
I
understand.
was just
I
trying to
understand.
search for somebody to see if I can get some help some kind of way. But nobody wanted to do nothing.
But it seems that LSU did retaliate, because when you called the reporters, LSU told them you were just trying. Let me not say LSU. Someone from the university told them you were trying to get money,
Yeah.
and that's how they killed the story. Okay. Thank you, Madam Chairperson. I have no further questions. And I know I asked you some thorough questions.
That's okay.
And I didn't want you to have to relive it again, but the facts are
right.
this. We are here finally to do an inquiry on your story as you've told it, and we want to know everyone that was involved that you reported to that did not give you the relief you deserved. And I am, in prayer and so sorry. And I don't think anybody on this committee is going to be able to even express the sorrow that is felt in our hearts right now. Because we all have mothers, and some of us are grandmothers, and some of us are mothers and aunts, and, would never have wanted to see this happen and be reported to 4 different entities. And as I look at it, in those 4, we fund 3 of them with state money, in part or in whole. And so I think that we need to know what we're funding, who we're funding, and how they're not taking care of our people.
Another thing, I had spoke to one time to an attorney, and he was saying, well, this didn't happen on campus. I said, well, I remember when Prelude was the quarterback and he kept stealing out the stove. It didn't happen on the campus, but they took him, they expelled him from the whole school. I remember when Jefferson had a fight in a bar. That wasn't on the property. And he was expelled for about 3 or 4 games. So what's the difference? It wasn't on their property. A lot of things wasn't on their property. And they still, just like I know Tyrone Mathis' family well. Tyrone was getting a lot of trouble, smoking weed off property, on property. They found a mentor to help him out, So I felt like just because this didn't happen on the campus, why should it be overlooked?
You're right, and he was with the team.
Yeah, and I follow LSU team because I'm a fan of LSU. That's why I know a lot of things that they've done with different. And the young man just recently, the first name is Davis, I think. They just expelled him off the team right after this came out in August about these young ladies, because he was for domestic violence on his girlfriend. But had this Matt probably didn't come up with these girls, he probably still would be on the team. Soon as that came out, they expelled him off the team. I can't remember his last name. I think his first name is David. You know.
Yeah, well, it's definite of this. It's definite that something should have been done. And what's more definite to me is that even in your heart where you were hurt, you had compassion on the young gentleman.
I did. I really
You did. And that's, to me,
He was an outstanding football player.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And for you to take compassion on someone who treated you in this manner, and these entities not to take action, to me, post salt on an already open wound.
I didn't ask him to be put off the team. I didn't ask for him to be removed from the school. Just don't put it in that game. That's all I asked.
Well, I want to thank you for your testimony. I know it took a lot to come here and give that testimony. And I'm sure this committee will be following up on all those you reported to that did not give you any relief. And I want to apologize sincerely on behalf of the state of Louisiana that this has happened and occurred, and those who you were supposed to put your trust in didn't take care of it.
Thank
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you all for listening, for taking time to listen to finally somebody's listening to me.
Yes, ma'am. And we're going to do more than listen.
Okay, thank you.
That's right. Senator Peterson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. How you doing, Ms. Scott?
I'm doing okay.
Yes. I'm so glad you're here. You're a strong black woman.
I told you I was coming on the way. I didn't come if God didn't wake me up this morning.
And I knew God would wake you up this morning. I've only known you for about a week and a half.
Right.
And we talked every other day.
Exactly. And I appreciate you for helping me to get here.
You're welcome. We shared our stories. And just so everybody know how we met, she was in Walmart. And she saw a mutual friend of mine. Yeah. And that friend called me on the phone from Walmart. Thursday the 18th, maybe?
I had seen you on TV.
Where?
Here.
From the last hearing, Madam Chair.
And I told Barbara, I said, sure wish I could find a way to get in touch with Karen, because I need to really get this story out. She asked me what happened, and I told her. She said, oh, no. Barbara and I went to school together. She said, I'm going to call her right now. And you answered the phone, and you promised to call me back, and you did every time. And that, it makes me feel good to know that there is other people that are concerned and do care, And my family is very excited about the fact that I'm here today. They're very excited about that because they know that it hurt them a lot. Because they saw how hurt I was. They saw how distraught was about it and how much I cried about it. And every time my door shut, nobody would help me. And they knew that was really upsetting me. Yeah.
Well, that's why we're here, Ms. Scott. It's not just me. I know the spirit of all these ladies and gentlemen. And that is why this committee is having a second hearing, so that justice can come to you and so many others. And when you offer your courage, I just want to say that God loves you, and so do I. And that you are a courageous woman, and you remind me of my mother as well. And your story, there are probably a lot of people who may not have the courage to come, but understand that, and I won't be long, understand that this committee is not just having hearings, not to have action taken. And I know you worked all your life.
Still work.
Still working.
I work where Kraus used to be, where they have the condos and the apartments. I do concierge work there, and I go to the Dome. But I don't do the basketball game. There's too many. I'll do the football, I'll do the Essence, I'll do the Bayou Classic and some concert, but there's too many basketball games.
But you have you work 2 and 3 jobs. You have grandsons and granddaughters that are in college. And I know that your story is going to make a difference in the policy. And that's what you talked about. You want to make sure no one else gets hurt.
And before the storm, I was Assistant Executive Director of Security at the Hyatt Regency 29 years of my life.
You've had a good life. You are blessed. And we are blessed that you are here this morning.
Thank you so much.
That's all I want to say to you.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Senator Peterson. Senator Mizell.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. There's nobody that hasn't been touched by. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for letting me do this. I'm sitting here, and I just hope you know that I appreciate the courage it took. I appreciate the way you've approached telling your story, but I hope you know that you've put a different face on this whole issue. We have been given a portrayal of a lot of alcohol brings about crazy behavior. You don't fit that dynamic. You were an absolute innocent victim in a place of your employment, confronted by a situation. I'm a grandmother. I would never have expected to have to go through what you went through. So I just want to thank you. A lot of my questions Senator Jackson covered, because my concern was how many points of contact you had that could have done something about what you went through, and they kept passing you down and watering down the impact it had on you. And I think therein lies a large part of the problem we've got. So I just want you to know you've touched our hearts. God bless you. I'm adding you to my prayers. God bless your kids for being a support to you. I'm so thankful you have them. Are you a widow? Okay.
Divorced. Been divorced.
Okay. So you're by yourself with the kids.
No, well, I have one daughter here that's a pharmacist, and I have one daughter in Katy, Texas, that has her own business there, and I have two grandsons in college, and I have 6 grandchildren and 6 great-grandchildren.
Great. Wow. Well, you've got a lot of support there, and I'm thankful for that. But I appreciate you being here today. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Mizell. Senator Hewitt.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. I echo what others have said, and thank you so much for your courage to be here today. Nobody deserves to be treated as you were treated. Nobody. And I think we're all a little bit at a loss for words. It's a heartbreaking story. And I think we're all outraged on the inside. We're heartbroken for you. We're outraged that so many people did have an opportunity to help and yet chose to support the player and protect the player instead of addressing the victim. And that is exactly the culture that we're trying to correct. And then that is so wrong. And I suspect that it is not just this university, that it probably exists in many other places. And so, you have put a face on this, and I think have given us a lot to think about. And we are going to take action. I agree with Senator Peterson. This is not just a show here. We are really trying to understand where we have had breakdowns, to hold people accountable, and to put us on a positive path going forward. Senator Jackson asked some really great questions. She's a great attorney, and so she knew the flow and to try to get some of the details filled in on your story. If you don't mind, I have, I think, 3 questions to fit in with maybe some of Senator Jackson's questions. You mentioned that there was that you were asked to write down in writing a report that I believe you said you turned in to someone with the Superdome to report the incident. You wrote it
Yes.
down.
Yes,
Do you by chance did you keep a copy of that report?
that's what I'm looking for right now. I had that in a little paper I got from the police department. I had it. I was straightening out a lot of things. You know, you have all these built up papers and stuff, and I was called myself putting it up. I just can't put my hands on it. We're in the process of moving. I guess that's why I can't find nothing right now. But I'm still trying to find it. But I know the Dome have a copy.
Okay.
If I don't have it, they have one.
Yes,
they
ma'am.
should have one at
Well,
least.
we're going to try to find that for you.
And I wrote the report myself. I wrote it.
Handwritten. It was a handwritten report. Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. Thank you. When Coach O had the player and the
Office.
HR lady in his office, and they called you.
No, she's not an HR
Okay.
person, Sharon. I think Sharon something to do with recruiting or something like that.
Okay.
Sharon Lewis.
Okay, so they were in Coach O's office, and they called you and offered for the player to apologize to you, and you said, no, that's not enough. That's not going to get it. Did he ever apologize?
No, I wasn't allowed him to get on the phone because he can't fix that. I would not get on the phone with him. I refused to talk to him. I didn't want to talk to him.
Yes, ma'am.
No, I didn't get an apology because there's nothing he could apologize to.
Yes, ma'am. I understand that. My last question is, how did you know? I think you called really a lot of the right people that were in a position to do something about this within, let's say, the organization. You mentioned several names. You know, Verge Osbury was one, and others. How did you know who to call?
Because I got on the phone and I called the school and I asked for the different departments and who was I asked for the athletic director, I asked for the assistant, I asked for the coach. I was doing some of my own groundwork. That's how I did it. Me, Jesus and myself. That's how I got it.
Well, that's
Nobody
amazing.
gave me no information how to do it, whatever. I got on the telephone and I made calls and called the disciplinary department. I did it myself. Not myself. Jesus helped me to do it.
Yes, ma'am. Well, you did some amazing work on your own, because I think you were on the right track, and you did talk to people that were in a position to make a decision and do something about it. And I'm sorry that they did not act.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Scott, very much again for being here today and sharing your story. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you, Senator Hewitt. Representative Marcel?
Thank you. I want to thank you for having the courage to come in and tell your story. And I'm not going to belabor the comments of my colleagues, but I will tell you that I was I literally sit here and cried because I'm a grandmother. And I can't even imagine how you felt. I just want to tell you that we're concerned, that we love you. And I'm just glad I'm listening to you, your background, and your daughter's a pharmacist, and sounds like you have a lot of people around you that are supportive of you, and that you knew the steps to take. And so as we look at the things that have happened to you and the failures that occurred, it seems like you've left a pretty good track record of everything that happened. And I'm glad that you have the knowledge and wherewithal, or your children or someone, to go through all of these processes, that somebody has a paper trail on this. And so I'll say to you again, I'll continue to pray for you, because this is not something that just goes away.
No, it don't.
Right?
No, before years December coming.
And I appreciate your courage for coming in. And we're certainly going to look at every aspect of the failures that you faced. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Representative Marcel. I don't see any additional questions. Ms. Scott, once again, I do want to share my heartfelt sorrow and to let you know how sorry that you experienced this. And as Senator Mizell put it, you certainly have put a different face on this whole matter and whole situation. And a lot of the comments that we had heard in our last hearing in terms of excuses, in terms of why some of this behavior has happened. But again, it goes to speak to what all my colleagues have talked about as it relates to the culture, which we are here to address. So those who are coming up, I want y'all to know, I want you to speak to how something like this never happens again. Now, we can't control people's behavior, but one thing we can do is control the outcome. And the epic failure that happened in this situation never needs to happen again. I am so disappointed in the number of people that you reached out to, and no one helped you. No one sought to get more information. No one even took your recommendation. No one. I'm telling you, I am really very upset. But I just want to say thank you once again. Thank you for your courage. And my heart is just breaking because as I look at you, I just see my mom. And I just tell you, your kids have done wonderfully to allow you to navigate this without them interceding, because oftentimes that's what they do, because they want to protect their mother and their grandmother, and certainly their great-grandmother. But we thank you, and I thank your family. Thank you for your courage. Thank you for being here. Thank you for adding this additional aspect that we never heard. We had not heard this part. And I'm saying to all the systems here and not here, all of the individuals involved, that we never want to ever see anything like this ever happen again. And we will be doing our part.
I appreciate it. Like I said, I don't know how the story got out, but it was out. I don't know who put that out. I can't find out. My granddaughter ran across it. And somebody almost had everything to a T. But I told you all today, except for a few things, but I don't know where it came from.
Well, I'm glad that we had the hearing a couple of weeks ago. I'm glad that you saw Senator Peterson, and then you saw somebody else, and that's how it works. So, see, when you pray, because God connects all the pieces for you.
He does. Yes, He does.
And you're here today to share your story.
What He did for me.
Madam Pro Tem has one more question.
Real quick. Thank you, Madam Chairman. I know you're talking about you don't know how the story got out, but does it feel better for you to tell it? Or is it cathartic for you to tell it?
No, the thing is, I'm happy it was out. I just like to know who put it out, out of curiosity.
Right,
I'm glad to know that somebody put it out.
Well, you already said Jesus is looking out for you.
Yes.
So
yes.
maybe
but
there's
Jesus is an on-time God. He comes he came at a time when it was the right time to come, and that's when He came.
I just my prayer for you is that I hope you feel like you've done something positive out of a very bad event.
Yes.
So
and He helped me through the walk and to call all these people.
Well,
nobody told me to do this but Him, and I made the phone calls because I'm that type of person.
Well, God bless you. Thank you, Madam Chairman. I had to ask that.
Okay, sure. Senator Peterson.
Yes, and it's not really for Ms. Scott, so thank you, Ms. Scott, for being here. It's just a broader question. It's not a question for her. I'm just like, at some point, it's, I know, Madam Chair, you mentioned, we all say it's really important to hear these stories, but when Ms. Scott walks out here, she has her family and she's alone again. The worst thing that can happen is that there are no consequences and there's no accountability for current people that are employed by an institution.
I agree.
And we keep saying we're sorry to hear it, and it's just so terrible. Now there's a new face. It doesn't matter what the face is, black, white, young, old, man, male, or female. it keeps happening. And so there's these stories, and we have them over here. But then we also have a group of people that consistently decide on their own whether or not or how to take action that is non-compliant with the current law. And so at what point do we demand compliance? And what does it mean to have, I mean, there are probably hundreds of survivors that could come tell their story. More are not going to come out if there are no consequences. Because the consequences, it's just like criminal law, right? It's a deterrent when there's action. That's why we go every year and we pass laws, because we hope that less people will do it when they see the significance of the consequences. But if you keep doing the same thing and expect a different result, that's insanity. Mm-hmm. And there are too many people hurting. Mm-hmm. This is emotional pain. And I just think that we've heard the names of the people. And I remember he couldn't convince me is one of the things she said. I just wrote down. He couldn't convince me. He couldn't convince me to accept the apology. Why is a person in authority trying to convince a victim to accept an apology? Mm-hmm. She says she didn't want to hurt anybody. She wasn't trying to hurt his career. But this is like a 5-year-old in your house. I mean, if you have, I don't have children, but if you have children, you do something and you don't want them to repeat it. So she wasn't vindictive. It wasn't vitriol that was driving her. She had grandsons herself. She said that. So when LSU comes up, I want you to hear this, Ms. Scott. It's not a question for you. Mm-hmm. But when LSU comes up, when you come up, address this situation. Mm-hmm. Not broadly about what could be and what we're going to do in the future. Address the situation of an incident where there was wrongful action. And what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? This one and all the other ones.
I didn't come alone. I came with my daughter. She like to be called Dr. Lee. She got a degree from Xavier, but she's sick. She's in my car, real ill, and she wanted to be here to sit beside me because she had some things she wanted to say too, but she's still sitting in the car. She's not feeling good at all. Her stomach is really bothering her a lot.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, again, we want to thank you, Ms. Scott, for being here. Thank you for shedding the light on this situation. Mm-hmm. And I, too, concur with Senator Peterson's comments. That's why I made the statement. Mm-hmm. And I said about not happening again, but she's absolutely correct about action being taken now with individuals who are still in place, who were aware, who also did nothing. So,
it doesn't matter how good of a player they play football, basketball. You still have to do something when they do something wrong. You have to show these children that they just don't, because you're such a good player, you could just do anything you want to people. You have to be chastised. You have to be chastised. I know y'all have chastised some of them. Like I said, I use Perlew, for example, because he was a great quarterback for LSU. He could have been a great quarterback in the NFL, but he was doing the wrong thing. They chastised him, so they have to get picks and chooses or something. You know?
It seems that way because certainly you're right. You call out quite a few that were chastised, mm-hmm. And in this situation, we didn't see that with the player, nor with those who were in charge. Again, we thank you. Safe travels to you. Many prayers and blessings to you and your family as you continue your journey. And again, thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for having the courage because, as we know, many people don't, especially when they don't think anything is going to happen. But we thank you.
And I thank you all for taking the time to listen to me. And I'm glad whoever put the story out. Thank you, Jesus.
Thank you again.
It didn't have my name. That's all.